You delete their texts, you replay conversations, you hate how much power they have over your peace. 2,000 years ago, the Stoics solved this. Not with detachment, but with a better way to love. And here's how.
It's so relatable, right? That feeling of like your whole emotional state hinging on someone else's actions, you know? A late reply, a message that could be interpreted a million ways.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
totally human. And it's something, honestly, people have struggled with forever. But what's wild is that ancient philosophers, instead of saying like toughen up,
Yeah.
actually offer this path to a stronger, more fulfilling way of connecting.
And it's not about, like, becoming some emotionless, being in these relationships. It's actually kind of the opposite, right?
Facts.
It's like building this inner strength
Yeah.
so we can, love more deeply without being, like, completely thrown off by every little thing.
Yeah.
Like, think about Sarah. She meets Jake online. There's a spark. Things are good. But then his texts, they become less consistent, a little sporadic.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Sarah's entire day revolves around whether or not he replies.
Ugh, I know that feel.
Right. She's like overanalyzing every single word, rereading old messages. She even cancels plans just in case he, like, decides to reach out.
It's a classic pattern, and so many people fall into it. The core issue, though, and this is what thinkers like thousands of years ago were onto, isn't Jake's behavior in itself.
Oh, interesting.
It's Sarah's reaction to it. Her sense of self-worth is so tied to his attention that his inconsistent communication just throws her off balance. She's basically given him the power over her own peace of mind.
So, like, how do we take back that power? What's the, like, first principle in this ancient approach to dating, with more peace?
It all starts with something we can call the pre-commitment filter.
Okay.
It's about defining your values and boundaries before you're emotionally invested. It's like setting those guardrails for yourself in the dating world.
I like that, setting
Yeah.
those guardrails.
Yeah.
So how do we actually, like, build this filter? What are the pieces?
Well, it begins with this great piece of advice. First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. And applying that to dating, it means getting crystal clear on who you are and what truly matters to you in a relationship before you even, wade into the dating pool.
Makes sense. Self-definition first.
Right.
But how do we make that practical? You mentioned a 3-part filter, right?
All right.
So let's break that down. The first part is creating this non-negotiables list.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly goes on this list?
This is where you define your essentials.
Yeah.
Not like, superficial stuff like hair color or job title.
Right.
But those fundamental values, behaviors you absolutely need from a partner, for your own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how you need to be treated, what kind of communication builds trust for you, and, what allows you to be yourself in a relationship.
So, like, what would be some, like, concrete examples to get our listeners started?
Okay, so a non-negotiable could be respecting your time, someone who doesn't bail on plans last minute without a good reason.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It could be being committed to honest, open communication, no passive aggressiveness or game playing. Or maybe it's important that your partner has their own life, their own passions, so they're not like totally dependent on the relationship.
Right. Shows that they value their own individuality, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are some that jump out at you?
I'd say huge for me is respecting my boundaries.
Yeah.
And definitely someone who's emotionally available, no ghosting, no breadcrumbing,
Absolutely.
all that stuff.
Okay.
So we figured out our non-negotiables. What's the second piece of this filter?
This is what I call the friendship foundation test.
Ooh, okay.
Basically, ask yourself, would you genuinely enjoy this person's company even if there was zero chance of romance?
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Because, think about it, it's a privilege to connect with any human being on a deep level.
Yeah.
And this test makes you look beyond just the, romantic potential.
Right. So it's valuing the person for who they are, not just like some potential romance.
Exactly. Strong romantic relationships, they often have that bedrock of genuine friendship.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't enjoy someone's personality, humor, intellect, outside of that romantic context, it might mean the connection is built on shaky ground.
Makes sense. So I was asking, do I actually like this person as a human being?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, for that final piece of the pre-commitment filter, this is a 24-hour response rule, and this feels especially relevant, like, in our always-on digital world.
Absolutely. This is all about creating a pause, a moment of reflection
Right.
before we react, especially because our responses in dating are often so instant and emotional.
Right.
It's simple. When something happens that triggers you, like a delayed text or an ambiguous message, you consciously wait a full 24 hours before responding.
Ooh, that's tough. 24 hours can feel like forever when you're, like, anxious about something.
But that discomfort, that's what this rule is meant to address. It gives you that buffer for your emotions to settle down, and you can see things more clearly. After those 24 hours, ask yourself, will this even matter in 3 months? Usually, those anxieties have faded. And then you craft a thoughtful response instead of just, firing off a text in the heat of the moment.
So it's about, like, choosing intentionality over those knee-jerk reactions. I could
Yeah.
see how that would save so much stress and overthinking.
Totally.
Okay, so we've set up those initial guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next piece of ancient wisdom that can help us, like, navigate dating?
This one's about accepting what is, recognizing and embracing the reality of our experience, good and bad.
Acceptance can be tough, though, especially when, things in dating don't go the way we hope.
Oh, absolutely. Think of someone like, let's say, Tom. Tom was devastated after a breakup.
Mm.
But he made a choice to engage with the reality of it instead of getting stuck in the pain. He
Yeah.
actually sought out what he could learn, how he could grow.
What did that look like for him?
He started by actively looking for the good that could come from the situation. Like, what opportunities does this create? Maybe he realized he had more time for hobbies or that the relationship wasn't serving him in ways he hadn't admitted.
Yeah.
Focusing on what was possible helped him shift his whole perspective.
And that had a real impact, right?
Huge impact. Over time, he didn't just accept the breakup, he actually felt grateful for it. The lessons learned, the new direction in his life.
That's pretty amazing. How can our listeners, like, build that kind of acceptance?
Yeah.
Even if they're, currently in a relationship?
I love this exercise. It's called the resilience building exercise.
Okay.
And it's not about, like, expecting things to go wrong, but about building your capacity to handle whatever comes up.
Right.
So even if you're happily dating someone now, take a moment to imagine, hypothetically, if the relationship ended. Then ask yourself, what are 3 things you'd have more time and energy for? What are 2 personal goals you could focus on? And in what one way could you grow as a person through that experience?
It's like mental preparation, but without dwelling on the negative.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got our filters in place. We're learning to accept what is. What's the next key principle in this, like, ancient wisdom for modern dating?
This one's all about understanding your sphere of control. This is a big one. It's about separating what you can control from what you can't.
Which seems super relevant to dating because, it can be so unpredictable.
It's crucial in dating. There are things you can directly influence and many you simply can't. So let's break that down, okay?
Okay.
You can control the effort you put into your dating profile, how present you are on dates, your communication style, your response time,
Right.
and the standards you hold for how you're treated.
Those are all actions, choices we make. So what falls outside our control in dating? This is probably where a lot of the, like, frustration comes in.
You're right. You cannot control who swipes right on you, someone else's feelings for you,
Right.
how quickly they reply, or their past relationships. All those things are external, outside your sphere of influence.
It's helpful to see it laid out like that, where to put your energy,
Totally. And here's a tip. When you're anxious about something in your dating life, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, acknowledge the feeling, but then consciously shift your focus to something you can influence.
Super helpful tool to, like, redirect those anxious thoughts. Focus on what you can do, let go of what you can't. Now, all of this seems to lead up to what you call the counterintuitive truth. What's so counterintuitive about it?
It's this. The less you need a relationship, the better your relationships actually become.
Wait, that almost sounds backwards. Why is that?
It comes down to a few things. When you're not coming from a place of neediness, you're way less likely to put up with bad behavior or settle just because you're afraid of being alone.
Okay, yeah.
You set healthier boundaries, which attracts partners who respect those boundaries. And maybe most importantly, you can enjoy the process of dating, getting to know people for who they are, not fixating on whether they're the one.
So it's about approaching dating from, like, a place of wholeness within yourself, not looking for someone to complete you.
Exactly. When your happiness isn't dependent on being in a relationship, you connect with people in a more genuine way. And that's attractive, It
Right.
creates much healthier dynamics.
This whole framework for thinking about dating has been so valuable. So what are some things our listeners can do, like, right away to start applying these principles?
Okay, action plan time. This week, carve out some time to make that pre-commitment filter list. Really think about those non-negotiables, the qualities you want in a connection.
And what about something they can do, like today?
Today, do the resilience building exercise, even if you're in a great relationship. It's amazing for self-awareness and building emotional strength.
Love it. And if the dating world starts feeling overwhelming?
Come back to this conversation. Remember these principles. They're timeless tools for navigating connection with more wisdom and peace.
Such practical advice. So the big takeaway isn't about suppressing our feelings or becoming detached from love.
Not at all. Remember, the goal is not to stop caring deeply. It's to care from a place of strength and self-respect.
Beautiful. Now, if you found this deep dive into a better way to love helpful, please subscribe to our show and leave us a like. We always love hearing from you.
Yes, let us know what's resonating, what you'd like to explore more of.
And we'll keep digging into ideas that can bring more peace and understanding into your life.
Absolutely.
Until next time.